Welcome to Earth Science. This is your first video lesson, and this is for Unit 1, which is our prologue, or our introduction to the course. And first of all, you need to understand that Earth Science is going to be the study of Earth, but it's also an inclusion of the processes that occur on Earth, the history of Earth, the surroundings that we see, and how the overall formation of the Earth itself. The study is going to include things like geography, history, oceanography, and astronomy. Your best friend in this course is going to be your Earth Science reference table, which was your first homework assignment to make sure you got the QR code for that, and you should have something that looks just like this. And this is going to literally be your best friend to answer a lot of the questions and find a lot of information. So to start with, we need to understand and review a little bit about observations and inferences. So we know that we have 5 senses: sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. We use those to gather information. So we can see what a mountain looks like. We can hear the wind. We can hear the water. We can touch things. But in order to extend those senses, we need to use some scientific tools. We can make inferences about the information that we gather from our senses as well. So for example, we can observe that the sky is cloudy and we can infer that it's going to rain because from our past experiences and the knowledge that we've acquired, we know that cloudy skies, gray skies, that normally means impending rain or bad weather. So very important that you understand when we look at something that's an observation and it's something that's gathered, there's data that supports it. The inference is going to be something that's going to be implied from that data. And then we use these scientific tools to extend those senses, like I had mentioned before, and we're going to talk about some of those tools in this lesson as well. The first thing we need to talk about is a little review of metric units. So if you were to order these units from largest to smallest, we know that the smallest is actually going to be the millimeter, and then it's going to be the centimeter, the meter, and the kilometer. Let's take a look at those again. The metric conversions you must know. If we are going to do any kind of measuring, we're going to measure in metric units. That is standard in science. So you need to review your conversions and be able to make those units work for you. We know that 1 kilometer is going to be 1,000 meters. A meter is 100 centimeters. A centimeter is going to be 10 millimeters, and a tenth of a centimeter is 1 millimeter. Okay, so if you look at this ruler on the bottom, you can see if you count the little lines in between, this is a centimeter ruler on top, and so we have 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 3, and so on. In between, you would count 10 little lines, and those little lines are going to be millimeters. Okay. We can convert between these units just by moving the decimal point because it's a system that's based on 10. So if you were to look at these conversions and practice these conversions, we could say, okay, well, how many meters is going to be equivalent to 12 centimeters? You should come up with 0.12 because in order to get from centimeters to meters, we need to move the decimal point 2 places to the left. 1.2 meters is going to be equivalent to 1,200 millimeters. Okay, because now we're going to go from a larger unit to a smaller unit, so we're going to actually move the decimal point to the right. And we'll look at this to review it in case you don't remember. So we had to go 1, 2, 3 places to the right, we got 1,200. Okay, kilometers to centimeters. Kilometers is the larger unit, centimeters is the smaller unit. It's going to be on the right. So 2 kilometers is actually going to be 200,000 centimeters. And 1 meter is going to be 100 centimeters, which is what you got from the left column over here. If you are unsure and you need to remember how to do this, we can use the metric staircase. Okay, so the staircase, it shows you this decrease in size of units. So we start with the biggest one over on the top left, that's kilo. So we could use kilometer, kiloliter, whichever unit we are using. We have hecto, deca, and then our base unit. Our base unit is going to be things like grams, liters, and meters. So grams we're going to talk about and liters in a second. So from our base unit, that's kind of our starting point. We would get smaller, we would go to deci, centi, and then milli. the base units I just mentioned are the units that are standard for each type of measurement. So if we're talking about mass, the base unit is going to be grams. Then we could express that in milligrams, centigrams, decagrams, however many we need. Volume, the amount of space something takes up, is actually going to be measured in milliliters or centimeters cubed, okay, or you could say cubic centimeters. And then density is measured in grams per milliliter or grams per centimeter cubed, okay, just because we have centimeters cubed up here, right? This is a volumetric measurement. Density is going to be measured in a mass per volume ratio because density equals mass over volume. And we'll talk about that later this unit.